Close your eyes and picture the average American heading into 2026. Most people imagine a steady job, a reliable car in the driveway, and a savings account that builds quietly in the background. But when you look at the bigger picture, that story cracks. A massive portion of households lack even a few months of expenses, and many families currently owe more than they own. This pressure reaches deep into the middle class. Even with a solid salary, the money often exits as quickly as it arrives, leaving a balance of zero by the end of every month. Because no one talks about it honestly, it is easy to feel like the only person falling behind. In reality, your coworkers and neighbors are likely dealing with the exact same squeeze. It feels like running on a treadmill that keeps speeding up. While everyday costs press in, paychecks remain relatively flat, forcing you to run faster just to stay in the same place. This is a quiet struggle. People rarely admit to financial stress, which keeps the true scale of the problem hidden from friends and family. My name is Alex. I spent years assuming I was the only one lagging behind until I looked at the macroeconomic data. Seeing the broader numbers changed how I thought about my own situation entirely. Today, we are going to audit the average American's financial life going into 2026. We will break down savings, debt, income, and retirement. Understanding the shared nature of this pressure makes room for a new strategy. Once the math is clear, we can apply simple, low-cost moves to build a different outcome. Before we dive into the data, there is one defensive move you can make right now. Set up an automatic transfer from your checking account to a separate savings account for any amount, even $20. This creates a system where the money moves before you see it. By routing a small portion of your paycheck into an isolated vault first, you ensure saving happens automatically. This removes willpower from the equation. Most people who struggle to save are simply spending whatever is visible in their main account. This hack changes what is visible. Executing this one point of friction puts your financial trajectory ahead of a surprising number of people. To see why that buffer matters, we have to look at the current state of savings. The typical household lacks enough liquid cash to cover even a few months of basic expenses. Without that cushion, a single car repair or an unexpected medical bill can turn a stable month into a period of serious financial stress. This lack of savings is often coupled with a heavy debt burden. Most households are carrying significant balances across student loans, credit cards, and mortgages. This isn't always a matter of overspending. For many, these debts are the result of basic requirements like healthcare, education, or housing. This visualization shows the mathematical trap of interest. It quietly eats into every paycheck, siphoning off capital before a family can even begin to build wealth. Combining a low cash buffer with high interest creates a cycle of reactionary stress. It makes building a secure future feel impossible because you are always playing catch-up. The retirement picture follows a similar pattern. Many working-age Americans are currently behind the common guidelines for their age group. For those in their 20s and 30s, many have not started at all. Even for those nearing 50, the gap between what they have and what they will eventually need is often wider than they want to believe. This all feeds into net worth, the total value of everything you own minus everything you owe. For a large share of households, this number is lower than most people assume. In many cases, it is actually negative, meaning they owe more than they own. When you put these four pillars together, the average financial position is much tighter than it appears on the surface. Striving for the average is actually a high-risk strategy. These statistics provide a clear map of the current landscape. While the data shows a high degree of vulnerability, it also reveals exactly where the standard path fails. Financial security does not require a six-figure salary or perfect market timing. Those are myths that keep people from taking small, effective actions. Because the statistical baseline is so low, you can surpass the average simply by making a few smart, consistent moves that most people never get around to. Understanding the fragility of the status quo allows you to step off the treadmill. By making these small administrative adjustments today, you can begin building a level of security that the averages simply cannot provide. Look at the finances of the average American right now, and you will see a system under immense, constant pressure. It is tempting to look for a single culprit, one catastrophic market crash, or maybe just a series of poor personal choices. But the reality is different. What we are actually experiencing is a combination of distinct economic forces that have been quietly building and overlapping for decades. If you want to navigate your way out of this trap, you first have to clearly identify and categorize exactly what these forces are, because the modern financial struggle is a product of a specific economic environment. It is not an individual moral failing. This graph plots typical incomes against the cost of living. You can see a mismatch where living costs rise much faster. The most severe example is housing. Rent and home prices have climbed so high they consume a dominant share of every paycheck. Then there is healthcare. Even if you have insurance, the secondary costs, the monthly premiums, high deductibles, and out-of-pocket minimums take a massive bite out of a household budget. And that leaves an ever-present risk. A single unexpected medical bill can instantly wipe out months of careful saving. Add to that the cost of a college degree, which has steadily outpaced overall inflation, forming the third major pillar of this financial burden. For millions carrying student loan debt, those mandatory monthly payments directly compete with capital that should be going towards early-stage investing, right during the exact years when starting early matters the most. The absolute baseline costs required for survival and social mobility have completely restructured the middle-class budget. There is almost no margin for error left. The big expenses getting bigger is only half the equation. Entirely new spending categories have emerged that didn't exist a generation ago. We have active digital expenses, like food delivery platforms and on-demand convenience services. We also have the passive ones, monthly charges for cloud storage, automated software renewals, and stacked entertainment subscriptions. The trap here is psychological. A $5 charge here or a $10 renewal there feels harmless and incredibly easy to ignore. But when you stack them together, these microtransactions form a massive, continuous structural drain on a household's wealth. Imagine your income is a hose filling a bucket. Your expenses are holes at the bottom, draining it. Over time, the hose widened as wages increased, but simultaneously, the holes grew larger and multiplied. Despite more water flowing in, the bucket cannot fill up. You cannot out-earn bad financial architecture. A higher income cannot fix a system where modern outflows multiply exponentially. There is another layer that makes this entire system harder to manage. We have seen a mass transfer of financial responsibility away from institutions directly onto the individual. Earlier generations were much more likely to have a guaranteed pension. Today, you are expected to self-manage complex 401k accounts. A 401k is an employer-sponsored retirement savings plan that allows workers to save and invest a piece of their paycheck before taxes are taken out. You also have to optimize your own tax liabilities and navigate complicated healthcare networks. You are essentially handed the controls to a highly complex financial apparatus with absolutely zero formal training. This wealth distribution curve reveals the mathematical trap of the word average. A small cluster of extremely wealthy households pulls the mathematical average significantly higher. The median, the exact middle point, drops right in the center and is a far more accurate reflection of reality. This complexity has left many people paralyzed, often making financial moves based on outdated advice or no advice at all. Because so few are navigating this system with a clear map, the effort required to move past the median and into a position of stability is often lower than the overwhelming totals suggest, simply because you are no longer competing with a crowd that knows where it's going. Once you see the traps for what they are, you can start making the specific moves to break the cycle. Going broke or staying financially stuck rarely looks like a spectacular crash. Most often, it looks exactly like a quiet evening at the kitchen table. Because the habits that keep us from building wealth feel entirely routine, they slip right past our radar. We assume that if everyone around us is doing the exact same thing, we must be on the right track. But the reality is, there are 5 specific, invisible mistakes that quietly keep the average earner perfectly stuck in place. Until you learn to spot these 5 ordinary behaviors, true financial momentum is impossible to build. Mistake number 1 is staying intentionally vague about your money. This is the habit of knowing your bank balance and roughly what you earn, but actively avoiding your entire financial picture. People avoid this for a very logical reason. The truth can be incredibly uncomfortable. Facing exactly what you owe and what you spend requires looking at numbers that might make you wince. But when you actively ignore the hard data, you end up making your daily financial decisions based entirely on how you feel in the moment. Without a factual baseline to guide you, that emotional decision-making almost always leads to spending more than you should, and missing out on money you could easily be saving. Mistake number 2 is measuring your own life against what you see online, instead of what actually exists in the real world. When you constantly scroll past new cars, renovated kitchens, and tropical vacations, your brain quietly starts registering those exceptional wins as the new baseline standard for a normal life. This chart illustrates how wide that distortion gets. The actual real-world average is usually much lower than what your highly curated social feed suggests. Because of that gap, you naturally adjust your spending upward. You end up trying to keep pace with a lifestyle that even the people posting about it might not actually be able to afford. Over time, that constant pressure to upgrade drains your wealth through a steady, quiet stream of unnecessary purchases. Financial planners call the third barrier lifestyle inflation. It happens when you treat every single raise or bonus as an immediate green light to upgrade your standard of living. You get a bump in pay, so you move to a slightly nicer apartment. You get a newer car. You start picking up the dinner tab more often. This graph shows the mathematical trap in action. Notice that the moment the baseline income steps up, the personal expense line dynamically curves upward to consume the new, higher income level entirely. Within a few months, you are earning more money, that you are simply caught on an endless treadmill. You are just spending at a higher level without actually generating any long-term wealth. Mistake number 4 is telling yourself you will just catch up on saving in retirement later when things finally settle down. The problem is that the perfect later almost never arrives. As you get older and earn more, your expenses tend to grow right alongside your income, keeping your spare cash surprisingly tight. This chart shows the real penalty of waiting. If you delay your investments, the loss of time permanently stunts the final trajectory of your wealth accumulation. You simply cannot get those missed years back. Time is the single most powerful, non-renewable ingredient in the entire formula for building wealth. Every passing year you wait for the perfect moment to start, achieving financial independence becomes mathematically harder to pull off. The 5th barrier affects almost every major purchase we make. It is the habit of judging affordability entirely by the size of the monthly payment. This diagram shows financing a car or student loan. You see a manageable monthly number, making the purchase feel affordable. But factoring in interest and duration reveals a massive hidden block of accumulated costs that drastically inflates the actual final price. When you only optimize for the monthly payment, you completely lose sight of the long-term wealth destruction those financed purchases are causing you. These 5 mistakes persist precisely because they do not feel like mistakes while you are making them. They look exactly like normal, accepted behavior. But dragging these invisible habits out into the light and recognizing them for what they are is the required first step to breaking the cycle. You do not have to fix everything overnight. Eliminating even 2 or 3 of these specific behaviors will create a compounding, noticeable positive difference in your bank account over time. Identifying what to stop is really only the prerequisite. To build actual, lasting wealth, you need a concrete, step-by-step action plan for exactly what to start doing next. You understand the numbers. You know why they look the way they do. You know the mistakes to avoid. Now here is exactly what to do about it. Taking those concepts out of your head and applying them to your daily life is the dividing line between financial anxiety and actual stability. Step 1. Calculate your full net worth today. Open a notes app or a spreadsheet on your phone. This should only take a few minutes. This diagram shows how the formula works. On one side, list everything you own: bank balances, retirement accounts, investments, and the value of anything major, like a car or a home. On the other side, list every balance or loan you owe. Subtract what you owe from what you own. That is your net worth. It might be negative right now. That is okay. The point is not to feel good about the number. The point is to finally know exactly where you are starting from. Getting that raw, honest baseline is required before you can build any further. Step 2. Track every dollar you spend for the next 30 days. Every single coffee, every grocery trip, every random online order. This chart shows the result of that tracking. The goal is not to judge yourself. The goal is to see reality. Most people are genuinely surprised when they see where their money actually goes each month. Step 3. Audit every recurring charge on your bank and credit card statements. Go through the last 2 months and look for memberships, auto renewals, service plans, and charges you forgot about. Cancel anything that does not add real value to your daily life. Seeing exactly where your money goes and cutting those hidden subscriptions is one of the fastest ways to free up monthly cash, and it does not require changing your daily routine at all. Step 4. Keep your emergency savings in an account that is easy to access and paying a reasonable rate. This graph compares standard bank accounts to higher yield environments. Many basic savings accounts pay very little, while high-yield savings accounts often pay more. Keep your short-term savings somewhere accessible and useful, and ensure the account is with an insured institution. Step 5. Start or increase your retirement contributions. If your employer offers a retirement plan with a matching contribution, consider putting in at least enough to get the full match if your budget allows. This visualization shows the mechanics of that match over time. Even putting aside $50 a month is effective because compounding rewards consistency. Starting small right now outpaces planning to start big later. Relocating your money into these specific environments turns your passive cash into an active tool for generating wealth. Step 6. Build a starter emergency cushion. This diagram illustrates your defensive baseline. Set aside enough to cover about 1 month of your essential living expenses: rent or mortgage, utilities, groceries, and transportation. That small buffer keeps one bad week from knocking you off track. Step 7. Set a quarterly money review date. Put it on your calendar right now, repeating every 3 months. When that date arrives, sit down for 20 minutes and look at exactly 4 things: your net worth, your spending patterns, your savings progress, and your debt. A scheduled quarterly review keeps you honest, catches problems early, and forces you to track your progress in real time. Look at this completed checklist. If you follow these 7 steps, you put yourself in a stronger position than many people in nearly every financial category we covered today. The average American's finances are not a mystery. The forces behind them make sense, and falling behind is often simply a result of never taking these consistent actions. Use this as a starting framework to build from, remembering that this is not personal financial advice for every unique situation. If this gave you a clearer benchmark for your own money, hit like so more people can find this video. If you know someone who has been feeling stressed about their finances, send this to them, and comment your net worth goal down below. The path forward is not about getting lucky. It is about being a little more intentional, a little more consistent, and a little more honest with yourself about where you stand.